Wonder Woman issue 36, legacy number 836. Stephanie Williams writing with Clayton Henry on the art. So this is the next part of the little fill-in arc, which I opted out of. But Matt, you did read this, so by all means, take it away.
Yeah. So this is the back half of the trials for Diana, where, Steve Trevor coming to, Paradise Island, Themyscira. One of the Amazons has to take him back. So they do these trials, and Diana enters behind a mask because she doesn't want that to weigh in on the decision, right? And it's Steve telling Lizzie, Lizzie, right? Libby? No, Lizzie.
Lizzie. Yeah, Lizzie.
I had a brain fart there for a hot second. Lizzie about this and what he had seen, and from his perspective, the things that were going on with the Amazon trials. And here, we see Diana, how well she does. And it's almost in spite of her mother. And like Diana's best friend from childhood, who's an Amazon named, where is it? Mala. She's in there, and she kind of looks like Cassie Wonder Girl. She has the blonde, she has the red top, to go with it. So I feel like that was a conscious effort to make her look like one of the Wonder Girls. Kind of knew from the jump that she was going up against Diana, but still let her compete fully. So the first trial is with the bow and arrow, and they have to shoot it through the moving targets. Diana kills it. Then there's the second trial, which is of endurance, which is like a long distance race that has all these obstacles. And the biggest obstacle are the Kingas, right? At the end, they have to essentially mount and ride. But along the way, as all these Amazon warriors are going through this, Diana's the only one that is stopping and assisting the other ones. So she's on this big pillar over this pit, and one of the Amazons falls and slips, and Diana stops and helps her back up before she ends up finding Jumpa, her Kinga, in this group. And because she had spent so much time with the Kingas on the island, there was that connection there. So she's able to get on this thing and ride it and make up the time that she had lost by helping the others. And then it ends up in trial by combat, which is where it gets interesting, because it ties back into King stuff, where one of the warriors she has to fight is Emily, who is the Amazon that started off all of the Sovereign stuff. She's the one that tore up the bar in Montana. She is the one lady's, I'm drawing a blank on her, from the future, her mom, or the matriarch. And yeah, so it shows that Diana bested her in combat for this, trial. And Steve even mentions, Diana told me later that Emily was one of the warriors she most respected, and she had watched her train since she was a child. So it's setting up that Emily's not just a regular Amazon, right? Whatever led to her going off the island and teaming up with a Sovereign seems to be a big plot point to go forward, because I don't think they would just drop it in on here, for Stephanie Williams just to play with on her own. But yeah, so we see her fighting through combat, and Emily begrudgingly respects her because she has to. And then we get to the biggest trial, where Steve realizes this is what set Diana apart from all the rest of them. Like, yeah, she was a skilled warrior, but it was the trial of wisdom, where essentially they ask if in a village in man's world suffers under a tyrant, and the tyrant's army outnumbers any force that they could send. The tyrant himself is a single man who could be ended in a single night. What is the just answer in dealing with them, right? And this is just essentially how she dealt with Mouse Man and the Sovereign. And all the other Amazons like, oh no, you kill him, or no, you arm his people and have them and assist them in overthrowing them. But Diana's like, no, there's no simple answer. Is if you arm the people that have been raised under a tyrant, all they know is tyranny, right? If you just kill him, someone will rise up. So basically what you have to do is you have to help them get better. You overthrow the tyrant, and then you stay with them and teach them the stuff that the tyrant did not. And you allow them to become who they need to be. And that's where Hippolyta, who already knew Diana was in it, that's how she knew this was Diana. And Steve said that was also enough to make him pay attention, right? To make him sit up. And it finally comes down after that trial to the bullets and the bracelets, which again, I don't know why this needed to be a trial besides the fact that it's like the one thing that you know, associate with Wonder Woman. But it comes down to her and Mala, her best friend from childhood. And they're firing arrows at them and hoping that the bracers stop them, right? And these bracers are representative of their enslavement under Hercules, you know, and they wear them as a reminder that they won't be bound again, right? But that's also cool because they can dodge projectiles with them and they're useful. But Mala misses one of them and Diana blocks it with her own bracer, which she goes out of her way to help her competitor, right? And the other one strikes her in the shoulder, and she yields, leaving Diana the only winner. Hippolyta comes down, Diana unmasked, the crowd is shocked, because, I mean, who else could it be, right? And it's like, you know, you did what I told you not to do, but you still won fair and square. But, you know, she goes, I kind of realized when Jumpa bowed to you and allowed you access, you know, really easily, but I let you continue because I am your mother and I want what's best. And takes her and gives her the lasso and her bracers and the costume that she wore when she went up to Man's World, you know, for World War II and teamed up with the Justice Society, and explains what they all mean, you know, and like how the tiara is not a crown, it is just a reminder of where you come from, and that the lasso is the lasso of Hestia, and it can bound anybody to truth, you know, God or mortal. And that, you know, this is that she's been chosen. And then Steve's like, yeah, and then we got on an invisible jet, which really confused me because as a pilot, you know, why did they have the invisible jet? So they play with a little bit of fun there. And yeah, she notices that Diana, you know, had she not kept looking and had she looked back at the island, they wouldn't have left. So she kept her eyes forward as the plane lifted off. And there's this really fun 2-page spread of her with the Justice League and saving people, and, you know, her with Lizzie as the clay baby before she brings her to life. And then also at you know, her at the hands of the Sovereign when she was bound. And it's like, yeah, the greatness of your mom was that there, you know, she always felt there was so much to do, right? She couldn't be still. That, yes, she brought me back, but now she had to show the world what the Amazons are about. And yeah, so it ends with that, you know, she realized that Lizzie is not Diana, right? Diana would not want Lizzie to just be a copy of her, just as Hippolyta wouldn't have wanted Diana to be a copy of her. But that's where they're similar in that, you know, she says she's Diana's daughter. She's the best of the women I loved, and whatever good was in me, walking forward on her whole 2 feet. And there's so much to do. And that's where it ends. And so, you know, for a little 2-issue, you know, Stephanie Williams version of Diana's origin with the trials to bring Steve back to Man's World, it seems like, yeah, you could skip it. But what it does in building Diana in Steve's eyes to Lizzie, to the things that she has gone through, like, it is her upbringing that has made Diana uniquely qualified to deal with everything that's been going on in the Tom King, you know, part of the story, you know, and it was those tests did prepare her for what she's going to do. And then to throw Emily in that, the Amazon who we know next to nothing about, but she was one of the warriors that was chosen for the, you know, the volunteers to fight. And it's almost like, well, was she bitter about that? That, you know, she wasn't one of the ones chosen, you know, to go out to Man's World. And that's why she ends up selling out to the Sovereign and having the matriarch and all that stuff. So pretty solid. And the art by it is Clayton Henry is still, again, this might be some of the best stuff that I've seen Clayton Henry do. Like all of the stuff in the trials to something like the Kangas, which is just a very weird, silly concept. Having them race through these tunnels, you know, as part of the trials it just makes them work and you don't think, because the way that he draws them, they're just like, they're these majestic beasts that just happen to live on Paradise Island. Yeah, and then all the stuff that jumps back with, you know, on the river with the boatman, you know, all of that stuff has this like mythic quality to it, because there's like the way that he's playing with the light coming off the water, and, you know, Steve looking forlornly off into the distance. You know, it just really is the best work Clayton Henry's done. But yeah, really, really solid 2 issues. I think this one's a little bit better than the last one, because the last one just felt like we were rehashing the stuff from Diana that we've gotten a million times, whereas this added the context of what we've been reading. So I'm gonna give this a straight A.